Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to day 2 of Ohio EPA's 2021 Sustainability Conference. My name is Dave Folks with the Division of Environmental and Financial Assistance here at Ohio EPA, and I'll be moderating this afternoon's panel session, Sustainable Tools to Track, Measure, and Quantify Your Journey. Now I'd like to introduce our first panelist, Amy McCormick. Amy serves as a Corporate Affairs Manager for the Kroger Company Columbus Division. In this role, she oversees all external stakeholders, engagement activities for the division's footprint, which covers 115 stores in 38 counties across central, northwest, and southeast Ohio, as well as southeast Michigan and the panhandle of West Virginia. She is responsible for government relations, managing crisis communications, associate communications, sustainability initiatives, and overseeing the division's community foundation budget. And with that, it is my pleasure to turn the mic over to Amy McCormick. Amy?
Thank you, Dave. I'm excited to join you all today, share a few areas that Kroger is measuring related to sustainability, some of the tools we use to quantify and educate our associates and customers. I'm also looking forward to hearing from Lauren and Ryan, as well as we all lean on each other within our organizations, and we also learn from each other. Technology is a beautiful thing. I am going to pop off my camera here so that I can make sure you all can hear me the entire time I'm presenting. And with that, I will jump right in. So Kroger just released our 2021 Environment, Social, and Governance, or ESG report. We really use a cross-functional team of sustainability and business leaders who oversee our company's approach to not only the management and measurement, but also the performance on our ESG topics. So you will see from this eye chart that we do focus on driving positive impact for people, planet, and systems. Now, I could spend the next hour talking about all three of those. So for today, I'm going to focus on planet and really start with climate impacts. So for example, we want to help our planet by lowering our carbon footprint. And we do this through investing in energy efficiency, renewable energy, reducing our food waste, refrigerant emissions. I know we look to our friends at Columbia Gas and the Ohio EPA and others to help guide us in our efforts. We also work to conserve resources, and we have committed to achieving zero food waste to landfills by 2025. And we've focused a lot of energy on achieving zero operational waste by offering more sustainable packaging. So I want to talk about food waste and sustainable packaging. You obviously have to have a baseline, and then you have to measure those things to ensure that you're on the right track. Again, a little bit of another eye chart here, but one of the things that I'd point out here, you'll see increased retail donation of fresh produce, deli, and dairy items to be 45% of total food rescue. Then the two pieces above that, I didn't highlight them, but I'm gonna throw that in there. Strive for 100% of retail stores to participate in food rescue and optimize recovery of surplus food for donation through our Zero Hunger, Zero Waste food rescue program. Obviously, if we're rescuing food, it's not going into the landfill, and we're meeting that zero waste goal. So first, before I go further on how we measure that, you'll see here, this was something we shared in our ESG report that we're on track. But let me tell you a little bit about the food rescue process, so it kind of makes sense on when I share some of the tools that we're using to measure that. My ultimate goal, and everybody else at Kroger, we are a for-profit business. I don't want to mark down or reduce or donate anything. We want to sell it. So our ultimate goal is we sell our products. But then we do have a markdown process when things get close to date. Then we have a donation process. So all of our stores are able to identify, we have certain guidelines for each department. They are able to scan out items that are still edible and within dates to be able to be donated to local Feeding America food banks and food agencies. And then from there, the next step, we're going to focus on that donation piece, but then the next step is if that product was not edible or not able to be donated, that it goes into compost. Some stores do compost, some stores the product is turned into animal feed, but the ultimate goal is that getting to zero waste, that nothing is going to the landfill. So we've utilized spreadsheets and other methods for tracking food rescue. So I mentioned Feeding America food banks. Feeding America is one of our external partners in helping kind of set our guideline, baseline on where we are and kind of monitoring our progress as we move towards our goal in 2025 being zero waste. For those food banks that pick up from our stores, we ask that they measure, and they are weighing all of the product by commodity and reporting those pounds back to us. In our stores are actually scanning that product out, and we have a new tool that we just launched that is really, really impactful in, I'm trying to get it to go, I went too far, and really is impactful for our store teams to identify what they're able to do and the impact that they're making. So you'll see here, this is I think this is our Wintersville, Ohio store. The week of September 6th, they are able to very quickly every week look at where they are when it comes to zero hunger, zero waste food rescue. And the goal is they're scanning that out through CAO. CAO, we have an acronym for everything, is computer assisted ordering. They're using the reason code donation. And then as leaders, we're able to pull this up, take a look and go, okay, when I'm looking at this particular store, sorry, I hit the wrong button. When I look at this particular store, bakery had 6% of the overall total. And I think sorry, I keep hitting the wrong button. The bakery team is able to look at what they have, $6 in loss, and for retail loss, they scanned out $6 as donations. So they're on track. Dairy, you see a very different picture here. Only 137 of their retail loss for that week was scanned out. Only, you'll see the amount there for donation. We could actually have some conversation with the store and say, okay, what was the problem? What items were we not tracking? Going through the markdown process to get them at the date that we were able to donate that process or that product, and you'll see that again for meat and seafood and produce. So it's a really, really helpful tool that we're able to use. It really encourages our teams to make sure that they're using the right codes when they're scanning out product. And again, education's key. So this is a really, really good tracking tool, if you will, or measurement tool that our leaders are able to really dig in by department, educate our associates. We have a lot of tools that we use to educate them on what can and can't be donated, but then having that additional conversation even beyond food rescue to say, okay, let's make sure that that discrepancy in dairy was the rest of that product then put into compost, so that again, we're managing towards that zero waste. Another example I mentioned is packaging. So we have a lot of product and packaging for everything from our Kroger brands. We refer to our brands products. So that's your Simple Truth, your Kroger brand, Private Selection, and the list goes on. So we have lots of product that Kroger manufactures, and our ultimate goal is by 2030 to improve the packaging, everything being 100% recyclable, compostable for all of our packaging, reduce all unnecessary packaging. But then we're taking that a step further. So we know our portfolio of product, and we know that we're working with a lot of folks to monitor and ensure that we're working towards that 100% compostable and recyclable. But it's also important for us to share where we are with our customers, and then sharing with our customers so that they know how they then too can help at the end life of the products when they purchase them. So we've partnered with TerraCycle, and TerraCycle is it's very, very simple. Folks, if you go to terracycle.com/Kroger, you're going to sign up. You actually can earn points for organizations. You'll collect all of your end bags, if you will, or packaging from Kroger brand products, collect those in a cardboard box. You print off a label, and you're able to ship it for free, and all of that packaging is recycled. And you'll see in here too, we obviously do a lot with in-store plastic recycling. But the TerraCycle piece, we was originally launched in July of 2020, and we just received the Progressive Grocer Award for their inaugural Impact Award, which recognized companies who are really changing lives, impacting communities through unique programs. And this is one unique program where we're working, and we have our baseline. We know the packaging that we need to move forward to get to that goal by 2030, but then bringing the consumer along on that journey as well is very, very important to us. And with that, I will turn things back over to Dave.
Thank you, Amy. That was a great overview. And next, I'd like to introduce our second panelist, Lauren Cook. Lauren is the Sustainability Advisor for The Ohio State University Wexner Medical Center. She brings more than 12 years of healthcare and sustainability experience, 7 of those spent working for Practice Green Health. And with that, it's my pleasure to turn the mic over to Lauren.
Thank you so much, Dave. And Amy, as I'm moving forward in my slides, I think it's important to mention that, your efforts to reach out to customers and show them what other recycling opportunities there are actually sparked a pilot at 2 of our outpatient locations. So we have 2 passionate nurses who were collecting plastic bags out of one of our locations and then dropping them off at Kroger. And when I heard about this, I started looking into how can I create a formal program for them to recycle. So we're doing that in real time. We found an alternate recycler other than Rumpke in the Columbus area that's opening up next year. And we're trying a pilot. And that's thanks to what Kroger kind of showed your customers what's possible. So I just think that's a cool connection between the 2 of us, and appreciate everything that Kroger's doing on that front. So for some reason, I am not seeing the forward buttons. Oh, there we go. All right. So for us, sustainability data really matters. And why do we measure? I'm going to go through each of these in a little bit more detail, but it's a bunch of reasons. So it's for submitting for awards, internal and external reporting. And then, as Amy talked about, it's that education and that storytelling piece. It's what you do with the data that ends up mattering. But first and foremost, we've been lucky enough to receive a few awards. Our program has been in place for about 4 years now at the medical center. I've been a part of the team for 1.5 years. But I can tell you all of these have been so helpful in getting leadership support, employee excitement, just really helping people see what's possible. But the most impactful thing that we've received from doing awards is this benchmark report card that we get as part of the process for submitting our data to Practice Green Health. So I know it's hard to see. I think what I want to point out here is, first, don't look too close because we got some work to do in some of the areas. But second, it's just the wide variety of data points that we collect. This is everything from waste to chemicals, to food, to energy, to greenhouse gas emissions, to green building. It's a lot of data to manage. And if you don't do anything with that data after you collect it, it's not really useful. So why I love this is it actually shows us how we compare to the other 400 Practice Green Health Award applicants, to the median and to the 90th percentile. And then some of that data can be used to say, wow, look at what a great job we're doing. We're almost to the 90th percentile in this particular area. Or on the flip side, look at how much opportunity we have. We are not even close to the median. So what's going on here? And are there actually some cost savings, some win-win opportunities in this particular area? So it's a really powerful data set to share, especially with leadership and with stakeholders. On the next thing, it's all about then how we take that data and report broadly, internally and externally. For our internal sustainability report, we really frame it up in the language that we use at the medical center. So this is in kind of the groupings of our medical center strategic plan. So we're going to talk about it in terms of the pillars of health and wellness and talent and culture, research, education, and resource stewardship. When we talk about it to our external audience, we're really using that data to say, here's our progress on energy, on waste, on water, what you would typically see with a sustainability report. And then all of those stories that we include in both versions of that accomplishment report then gets utilized also on our internal intranet. So a Healthbeat Hub is what it's called. And you'll hear me talking about this a lot. Then it becomes about the people behind the stories, right? So here's an example of a really innovative project that happened during the pandemic. where a doctor and some office managers and a tech, someone from IT worked out a solution of how to get faxes from a paper form to a digital form. And you can see them sitting next to all the paper that they saved. And then, of course, the importance of getting that data and providing the education back. So this is an example here of a project that was not easy. We did it during the pandemic. It took over a year, and it was a move to go from disposable sharps containers to a reusable sharps container service program. Each of those containers can be reprocessed by our service provider and used up to 600 times. So it saves a tremendous amount of plastic, and they give us some reports on our progress. So you can see here, this is the plastic diverted in pounds. In just the 6 months that we've implemented this with, now we're about 2/3 of the way through, but we were really only 1/3 of the way through for the first 3 to 4 months. So we're making great progress. And when we talk about that, what does 29,000 pounds mean? What does 15 tons mean? So we're trying to figure out how do we put that in a verbiage or an understandable unit. And we're trying things out. This isn't the final thing, but if you think about your last visit to the zoo, you're standing next to an elephant. It's 5 of those. And you think about how light a plastic sharps container is, right? This is a tremendous amount of waste that we've been able to avoid through that program. And that's really where the data can become powerful. And then, of course, how do we measure this? I'm sure you guys were drooling as you're looking at Amy's dashboard, because I know I was. The reality is we're still doing the old-fashioned Excel route right now. And we're looking with our data analytics team about how we automate the really wonderful reports we get from our vendors, because we have wonderful partnerships where our vendors will put the data in the format that we need, but someone still has to go through that. And we have hundreds of locations now, and a lot of different vendors. So it's getting too much for one person to manage, or even manage with interns. So how do we automate that? How do we make it more efficient? And then how do we pair that with some visualization tool like Tableau or Power BI? And I think, what I'll tell you, one exciting progress that we've made so far is with our ENGIE partnership, Ohio State Energy Partners. They're now managing our utilities on campus, and they've installed about 99% of smart meters by utility by building on OSU's campus, including the Med Center buildings on campus. And so that is now real-time data that is feeding into a dashboard where we're going to be able to pull reports, but also look at the data in real time to make decisions and make changes. So I think that is all that I had for now. I know we'll have some questions after this, so I'll pass it back to Dave. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lauren. Finally, I'd like to introduce our third panelist, Ryan Stredney. Ryan is a program manager on the energy efficiency team for Columbia Gas of Ohio, where he leads the implementation of energy efficient programs to help residential and business customers save natural gas. I know Ryan implementation teams to deploy the 5 energy efficiency programs that he directly manages to ensure programs are successfully implemented while providing an excellent customer experience. And with that, it's my pleasure to turn the mic over to Ryan. Ryan?
Thank you, Dave, and thanks everyone for joining us today. On behalf of Vince Parisi, our president, and the rest of the Columbia Gas team, and thank you for your time today. So the first slide here you'll see is kind of just our opening page for our energy efficiency programs. And my approach today is going to be more on education of our EE programs and how they tie to sustainability. Sustainability comes in many forms, as you heard Lauren and Amy mention. There's buildings and products and different ways, for sustainability to tie into your business. And for Columbia, we provide a service. So, how do we measure our service and our data? And that turns into gas savings for our customers. And that's really what our EE team is highly focused in on, customer experience, lowering customers' bills, and helping them save money in the long run. So there's our landing page. Here's our landing page here. And at the bottom, you can see the website there, ColumbiaGasOhio.com, Savings Matters. So quick shout out here to the team. I'm very proud of this, tying into the EPA and the Energy Star team. Columbia Gas Ohio here, 10 years as an Energy Star Partner of the Year, 8 years Partner of the Year of Sustained Excellence, which is an ongoing award that we're very proud of from an energy efficiency standpoint. So third slide here, how we measure and quantify. So we have 11 efficiency group here at Columbia. And we have everything that are new buildings, new existing buildings, residential, commercial. We pretty much have a program that would fit any customer that we have to help them save on energy consumption. So Columbia Gas targets our energy efficiency programs to customers based on their needs to help them save energy. And as we progress through the slides here, you'll understand that a little bit more. So kind of as we piecemeal through some of the programs here together, you'll see how this enhances customer experience and how we use tools to collect data and to and show our customers how they can save on their energy. So from a residential standpoint, again, I mentioned there's new and existing buildings. So from a residential point, so our Efficiency Crafted Homes program here, you'll see we work with home builders across the state to help them build more efficient homes, tighter homes with better equipment in them, which in the long run saves energy for the customer and lowers the energy burden across the planet. And for our HERE program, which is our appliance rebates and our product rebates, which are more for existing customers who live in a home apartment, and our Columbia Gas customers can go onto our online store and purchase, shower heads, smart thermostats, programmable thermostats, all the way to new high efficient water heaters and high efficient furnaces. And we'll dig into that a little bit more. But from a sustainability and tracking standpoint, how we utilize data in these programs is we utilize tools and technologies ahead of time to help customers understand how they can save on their energy. So we use infrared cameras and we use blower door testing, safety inspections and checks through the homes. Don't get into the technical side too much here, but think of all the different ways that are in your home, your windows, your insulation, your attics and all those types of things on how energy can be wasted in your home. So we try to work with builders and work with existing homes to highlight what some of those things are and really give you the opportunity to really afford to make those changes in your home to save on natural gas and save on your energy as well. So here's another existing home audit. So discard the picture there. This is kind of a dummy report that we utilize. It's more of a newer home, but if you have a brand new home or an efficiency crafted home from Columbia Gas, you hopefully don't need an energy audit within the first few years. So, but what this does is we have a home energy auditor come into your home, and we look at top to bottom through the walls, the ceilings, again, infrared cameras and blower doors to try to assess your home's energy burden. And it's about a 3-hour process, and the auditor will give you some forms and sheets that'll let you, analyze your home with your current bill, and we will give you recommendations that are, low cost, no cost, very easy for the customers to do themselves. Or if you wanted to make some major changes, say add insulation or add a new water heater or high efficient furnace, there's rebates available as long as you use one of our certified contractors. We give you a pretty decent rebate to execute on some of those to make your home more efficient. So again, this is just kind of a snapshot of what the audit looks like. It's much more in depth than this. This kind of just gives you the square footage and the year the home was built, but we get into the nitty gritty and the nuts and bolts of your home and get into crawl spaces and really help you understand where some of your the problems may be in your home and try to remediate those for you. So again, I mentioned we help on the commercial side as well. So business owners or corporations who want to try to save on your energy burden as well. Just highlighting a couple of the programs here and how we utilize data to help customers is our Innovative Energy Solutions program, which is kind of our existing commercial buildings, and then our small commercial constructions program, which is more new builds. So think if there's companies building across the state of Ohio, and they're building all brand new buildings, we can work with those architects and work with those design firms and the engineers on site to really dig into what they're going to what the building's going to be used for, the type of space it's going to be used for. Will it be inhabited by workers? Will it be, more warehouse type things? And we can really get into what we call like a good, better, best scenario. So we utilize a NEO program, which is like an optimization engineering program that really lets the engineers and, again, the design teams really see what the options are when they're designing a new building. So our goal is to get in, well ahead of the design stage on the new buildings to really showcase, if they put in a different type of boiler or put in different types of insulation, how that's going to save on their energy burden and their gas bill for years to come. And we can give incentives to the company on those if they execute on some of those incentives. And then again, on the IES program, if you have an existing building where you're not planning on building from new, we can come in and help you replace some of those existing boilers or furnaces, those natural gas equipments that you have in the building there, and help give incentives and really give a playbook of what savings you can see over the lifetime of those pieces of equipment. So again here, this is kind of how we're really reaching out from a data perspective, from a sustainability front, and some doors maybe we haven't opened from the utility before. You can see here in 2020, our team generated almost 100 million media impressions. So think about that number, how that goes across the state of Ohio, 100 million impressions that we've made through broadcast, TV, YouTube, audio streaming, different types of social media, Google searches, those kinds of things. And really trying to connect with our customers to educate them and have them understand, why our programs are available to them. And we have the ability to track what programs customers participate in and continue to market them in a new way. So say you bought a new smart thermostat from our store, and now we know that you're kind of tracking your energy. So from there, we're going to try to get you to participate in our audit. And our home energy audit, as I mentioned earlier, will help you showcase and highlight what some of those low cost, no cost things that you can do to your home to really lower your bill and save on some energy. I think that's it for me. Thanks.
Thank you, Ryan. And thank you to Ryan, Lauren, and Amy for sharing their perspectives and insights about the importance of benchmarking, tracking, and measuring sustainability progress. Now we're going to ask some questions of our panelists and dive deeper into measuring and tracking your sustainability journey. We also encourage you to continue to submit questions using the interface, and we will get to those at the end of this section if we have time. We have the ability to follow up with you after this session too, so there's no worries. The first question will be for Amy. Why is data important to telling your sustainability story?
Well, that is a very good question. I would say it's important to measure sustainability performance really to show impacts. I think companies often don't necessarily know where they're operating within sustainability and where their impacts are. So if you take the time to identify and show where your impacts are crucial, and showing that to your internal and external stakeholders, where you operate and what effects your business activities and actions have, impacts are often shared, as I kind of shared, through data presented through ESG reports. I do think, too, impact investing is growing at a rapid pace. I think we are seeing more and more investors who want to fund organizations that positively affect their communities. So companies who make a difference for customers, for associates, other groups attract impact investors, and therefore they're increasing their stakeholder engagement.
Thanks, Amy. Okay, the next question is for Lauren. They always say you can't manage what you don't measure. Why is it so important in measuring and quantifying your sustainability journey?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think I touched on some of these themes. But while we aren't necessarily a business you can invest in, like Amy was talking about, there's a lot more pressure on healthcare to really fill this idea of an anchor institution model. So how are we contributing back to our community? So I think that's certainly an important piece that we're going to be looking at, that we have to be able to measure that to be able to report out on that. But more than that, I think we're seeing a shift, certainly in healthcare, that leaders are hungry for progress and outcomes. And tracking and reporting allows you to do that. But I think even more important than that is understand what that means. So, if you recall the benchmark report card that I showed you earlier in my presentation, I think knowing the data point and how that compares, where should it be is the next question you have to ask. And so one example of how we're doing that right now is, while we have an overarching goal at Ohio State to reduce building energy use 25% by 2025, how do we actually get there? And one of the ways that we're doing that is to focus on 3 different types of buildings. So one, a hospital with complex services, lab, research, ORs, a pharmacy, a outpatient center with ORs, and then an administrative building. So where should those buildings be operating at from an energy use intensity perspective? Many of you will be familiar with that term of EUI, and then creating a plan to put in place, well, how are we going to get to that target EUI? So I think it's about understanding what you should be measuring, what it means, and then building a plan to achieve it.
Great answer. Thanks for, that was a kind of big question, but I think it kind of encompasses what we're talking about today. All right, this question is for Ryan. Why does Columbia Gas want people to save on gas consumption and have lower bills? I think you kind of touched on it, but if you want to expand on that.
Yeah, sounds counterintuitive, but won't get too deep into the regulatory side of things. But Columbia Gas of Ohio is a fully regulated utility. So again, I'll save you the regulatory nuts and bolts. But in short, Columbia wants customers to have lower bills. Again, as goofy as that sounds, we're not the same old utility. Things work a little bit different, nowadays with the way utilities are run. So we really put a lot of forth effort through our EE programs to connect with customers in every different way possible. Everyone has their own way that they want to be engaged with. So we try different types of social media, different types of commercials, our websites, even handouts. We still do handouts at food banks and food pantries of a lot of our programs to really make sure we're hitting every corner of our service territory with our customers. So, utilizing our data that we obtain from customers as they participate in programs, helps us, lower their gas bills. And again, if we can't be a sustainable company to really help customers have affordable service, then we're not doing our job. We try to do everything that we can to lower bills and have customers have a lower energy burden. So again, it sounds kind of counterintuitive that the gas company would want you to have lower bills, but in short, we do. And again, we offer lots of programs for probably anyone on this call could probably benefit for some of our programs. So encourage you to check some of those out.
Thanks, Ryan. I'll give a shout out. I didn't really say it, but as our 5th handout there, Columbia Gas provided, I think it's called Sustainability Conference _ Columbia Gas handouts. There's Ryan provided 5 PDFs, and we combined them into one for easy download. So that was a special handout that we have that's not available with all the handouts for the other sessions. Okay, now we're going to circle back. It's Amy's turn. How is education to your stakeholders, internal and external, important related to measuring, tracking, and quantifying your organization's sustainability journey?
Well, I've talked a lot about external and, our shareholders. Obviously, if I didn't have shareholders, I wouldn't have a job. So, but for me, there's that internal perspective. So I can't tell you how excited I get when I think of just my 115 stores, over 21,000 associates. When, I've mentioned education is key. Lauren talked about it. Ryan talked about, education. And I get excited when I think of all of our associates, when we're able to share the data that we're able to collect from the work that they're doing, and we celebrate those successes with them. The education that they're getting within the 4 walls of a Kroger store, it will seep out into their personal life. So I hear countless stories from our associates where they've taken things that they're learning from even a composting standpoint, or food rescue and understanding what can and can't be donated, and then taking that into their own personal life and sharing that even outside of work. And I think when you can mirror the two, taking something that's work related, but then also learning and educating from a personal perspective, you grow engagement with your associates, you're growing morale. We have a great Zero Hero program, so every quarter we acknowledge our top donating store. We also then talk about our top fundraising customer, or for our customers, where we fundraise through our Zero Hunger, Zero Waste Foundation. We always make sure we celebrate our top cashiers who are doing their job through Roundup. So again, I would say sharing what, when you're looking at measuring and tracking and quantifying that journey and sharing that internally and educating your people, you can't go anywhere but up.
Thank you. We're going to circle back to Lauren again. How do you use your data to tell your sustainability story? How do you make it relatable to your audience? Which I think, some of these questions can apply to all of them, but we kind of broke them up. But from your perspective.
Yeah, well, you saw in my presentation the elephant example. We're throwing spaghetti up on the wall, and we're trying to figure out what sticks here, because sometimes it's hard to explain the impact of the work. What I can tell you with certainty that we've learned over the last year and a half that I've been in this role, the biggest thing that lands with people and that they engage in a story with is when we put the data through the people doing the work. So when we create a story, so you think back to that picture where you had the two people sitting next to all the paper, the data is embedded in that story. We talk about the savings, but what people really get excited about is like, how did they actually figure out how to do that? Oh, that doctor worked with this person to come up with a creative solution. And, so it's the people at the heart of the data. And as you weave that story together, that's what I find really lands and engages with people internally.
I agree. It's when you come down to measurement, it's still a people. It's a people thing. It's about the people. It's about your stakeholders. Very true. Brian, this is for you. Are all customers eligible to participate in Columbia Gas energy efficient programs, or are they just for income qualified or who have higher bills?
Yeah, a fair question. As long as you're a Columbia Gas customer, live in our service territory, get a bill from us, you're welcome to participate in as many programs if you feel like you can. We don't limit what those are. There's some limitations to some of our programs. As you mentioned, income qualified, our Warm Choice program has been around for a very, very long time. And, that program really focuses in on, the low income areas of folks who may not be able to do some of these home improvements. So we work with, some HP, WES, the HWEP stuff. So it's home performance with Energy Star. So these are certified, experienced contractors who, they've been doing this for a long time, and we're really doing the right thing. So we make sure that the folks that we help instill some of our programs are the right people to do it. You think from, think of words like micro-targeting, and those are kind of like a hot word. And what that means is, when you say micro-targeting, is we have 1.4 million customers in Ohio. So you think of all the bills and the usage and the data that we can obtain from all these customers, and micro-targeting each customer on what their customer experience is and what they want, how high their bill is. We can do safety checks. Again, safety is such a big part of what we do here at Columbia. Natural gas can be dangerous at times. So we want to make sure that when we're in people's homes, we're measuring all of the gas equipment correctly. And again, from a micro-targeting standpoint, we can utilize the data that we have on customers to focus in on some of the products that we feel like are good for their home, when their home was built, how old is their home, do we want to focus in on targeting them for insulation or those kinds of things. My home's 30 years old, so they would target me for a new furnace if I haven't replaced it yet, or a new water heater. So really, again, it comes back to the safety of what we do and the customer experience, and utilizing the data that we can collect from customers to to giving them a safer home, a warmer home at a cheaper cost, and giving them a customer experience that is something they might not be used to from a utility.
Great, thanks. So I have one more question for you guys before we're going to do another live poll and then move to the open Q&A. And I'll start with Amy first, but we'll go down the line. When your organization started tracking data, what tools did you use and how have they changed or stayed the same?
Well, we have been around a long time. So Lauren mentioned Excel. I mentioned Excel. We use Power BI. That's actually where our food rescue dashboard lives. So we have migrated through anything and everything that's out there, I will say. Today, we're blessed. We are a very large corporation. And with that, we actually have a data and analytics arm. We have amazing IT people, and 8451 is our data and analytics company. And fun fact, 8451 is the longitude and latitude of where the building sits in Cincinnati, Ohio. Love fun facts. But, they would tell you the exact same thing. We do write most of our programming. Everything is done pretty much in-house from a reporting and tracking standpoint. But then I think the one thing from a measurement standpoint and the tools that we use that has changed is the connectivity and relationships that we connect with other organizations. Like I mentioned, Feeding America. We also partner with World Wildlife Fund. They help us in our sustainable journey from sourcing product and things like that. And then, Lauren talked about, just the education piece. And I'm partnering with Ohio State University with some researchers that are doing some things on pollution and climate. And we have stores on every corner, right? So we're partnering. We put some units on the front of a handful of our stores. So again, I think that is one of the big things. We're blessed that we have a lot of resources when it comes to the tools that we have, but more so, I would say the connectivity and partnering with others to help us set that baseline and monitor and make sure and hold us accountable that we are doing those things that we say we're going to do by the time we say we're going to do them.
All right, made it. And Lauren, I can repeat your question really quick. When you started tracking data, what tools do you use and how have they changed or stayed the same?
Yeah, so I talked about this a little bit, but there were a few that I didn't mention. So primarily we're using Excel, and that is tracking it kind of by sustainability category. And then we report that out to Practice Green Health, which then gives us some of our benchmarks. Two things that I didn't mention are we're about to start a pilot on food waste prevention. And that is a grant that was provided through SWACO and OHA to help fund some of the initial startup costs for that. So that is going to give us, they actually will weigh the food waste, categorize the food waste, and then have a dashboard that we'll get to look at, and they'll make recommendations about how our retail menus need to change. The next thing that I forgot to mention is our group purchasing organization. So in healthcare, 99% of hospitals belong to this thing called a group purchasing organization where you buy a great amount of supplies through. And ours is called Vizient, and they have done a tremendous job of tracking environmental attributes related to the things that we purchase. And so they provide a great dashboard to us, also in Excel, that we can use then to report out on our outcomes. And finally, I see there was a question from the audience about a little bit more description on smart institutions. So that's going to be our energy tracking platform that we use on campus. So as I said before, this is something that's funded through the NG Ohio State Energy Partnership. And the smart meters in each building feed real-time data back to this dashboard so that we can pull up any building on campus, look at real-time data, look at historical data, pull EUI reports, pull outlier reports, do weather normalization on the data. So it's really meant to be kind of our energy management platform. but we're just getting to know it and figure it out. So happy to follow up offline with whoever asked that question if you want to learn more.
Yeah, that was actually a good question. And Ryan, I'll turn over to you before we do a live poll. Like when you started tracking data, what tools did you use and how they've changed? I'm sure you have a different answer, but similar in some ways, probably.
Yeah, I'll keep it short, but yeah, same thing. There's still some things that we have to do manually. That we haven't been able to either find or fund a program yet from a technology standpoint. So some of that stuff's still done manually, but we made great strides with technology and making that easier for us to engage with our customers. I mentioned earlier our Neo optimizer that really you can enter data into it, and it really kind of kicks out a good, better, best scenario for when folks are gut rehabbing buildings, homes, those kinds of things. To show them really what to focus in on to get the most bang for their buck. Lauren mentioned EUI and you get into like Energy Star scores and those kinds of things. We did an RFP this year to continue to run a benchmarking program that we do here to help customers. It's an automated benchmarking program through EPA Portfolio Manager, which is another good shout out for you guys. So a great tool that we utilize, a lot, and a lot of our customers will utilize to track their energy burden and their usage across multiple, whether it's one facility or multiple facilities across the state. We want this to be a tool that customers can use at ease. So in the near future here, you'll see this available to all of our C&I customers, commercial and industrial customers, that automates that benchmarking platform for them to kind of bring in their scores. So if anyone's seen, the city of Columbus has a new benchmarking ordinance that's coming out. I see a lot of shaking heads. So I think everyone is probably aware of some of those things that are going on. So we're doing everything that we can to kind of prepare ourselves, again, for that customer experience, to give customers what they need to lower their bills is our goal.
Great way to kind of wrap this part up. And I want to thank the panelists. And before we take, we have about 10 minutes left before we take a few questions from the audience. I want to do another poll actually related to what we just discussed. I'm going to launch it. And, we were talking about software and platform you're using. So that's our question. What type of software platform are you currently using to track your sustainability efforts? You can please select all that apply. As you can see, the first one is Excel spreadsheet, which you talked about, internal software, external, nothing, or other. And then, we don't have there, but please, if you have something else you use and track, since you can't type in here, please type it into the question and chat. Just kind of been interesting. We have all the data at the end, and we share it with our panelists, and it's just good to know, good networking about what data works for you or for your organization. We're at almost 50%, and I see a trend here. It'll make Lauren proud. All right. All right, I'm going to close the poll and share so we can get into our other thing, and you'll see Excel spreadsheet. Still 70%, and there's nothing wrong with that. Excel spreadsheet is useful, and everybody knows how to use it for the most part. I've had my moments with Excel, but for the most part, it works pretty well. Now we're going to begin to take some questions submitted for attendees. As a reminder, you still submit questions to our panel. Again, we probably won't be able to answer them all because we only have about 8 minutes left in our time here today, but we will make sure that they get to the appropriate panelists, or if we have to answer it and follow up from you. So I was gonna go right into number one, and you guys can all take this, and maybe I'll start with Ryan. How has data changed the way in which your organization operates? I know it's a big question, so you can keep it short because it could be a long answer, but just how does that change how you operate?
Yeah, like Lauren mentioned, we're getting into smart meters, and we're working with specific companies to maybe get into back to the minute by minute meters to show usage. So those are some of the things we're looking into from a holistic standpoint from Columbia Gas and its own. But I won't get too far into it. I think Lauren's shaking her head. Maybe she has something, but I know there's technologies like that we're looking into to try to have customers be able to track their data a lot easier.
Well, go ahead, Lauren. You're shaking your head in agreement. So go ahead, and then we'll go to Amy.
I relate. Yeah, no, I think data is going to drive decisions moving forward, and so the emphasis is on how do we track that more efficiently. And yeah, I love that I've got so many people commiserating with me that you're still using Excel, but the reality is, if we've got to do this work as fast as we possibly can, then we need an efficient way to make decisions and move forward with projects and report progress on pilot projects so we can then scale. So I just think that's the way I'm seeing that it's changing our organization. We need it to make decisions, and we need it faster so we can make faster decisions and do more of this great work.
Amy?
Yeah, they really summed it up. I would say, I knowing some other things that people were thinking and during the presentations, and from our standpoint, the consumer being armed with a lot of data relative to sustainability and our planet and systems and people, that's driving a lot of what we're doing. We're listening to our consumer and trying to make sure that we're being good stewards in the communities that we operate in, and being able to track and measure that data so that we can share that with consumers. They understand where we are in the journey. Everything from, we talked about plastic bags earlier. We have made a commitment that by 2025, we'll remove all plastic bags from our stores, but I could do that tomorrow. But we have to bring the consumer along on the journey. We have a lot of consumers that want to see that happen, but we have to make sure that we're prepared, and we prepare the consumer on what that change will look like. So we're looking at a lot of different things, and that those are but again, measuring where we've been and why. Like when you go out into the world and you see how much plastic's out there, that data tells us that we need to change our data figures, right? So that's why we've made that commitment.
Great. That's a great answer. And actually, I'm going to spin back to you, Amy. There was a question that came across. This is a good one, but you can, like, if you need to go into more detail, you can follow up with this individual. But I thought it was good for the audience. How do you balance the goal of freshness, right? Which so that the fresh food, part of being a grocery chain, and food waste, since food items that are not fresh are likely disposed of. Is that challenging? And do you deal with any regulatory issues, regarding the donations like health codes and all those things?
Yeah, not a lot of health code issues with our donation program. I'm more than welcome, amy.mccormick@kroger.com. Connect with me afterwards if you're interested in learning more about our Zero Hunger, Zero Waste guidelines. So we have guidelines for every single department. I always use meat for an example. If I go home tonight and I bought chicken breast this week and it's going to outdate in 2 days, what am I going to do? And I know I'm not going to be home because of practice with the kids. I'm going to throw it in the freezer. So we do that exact same process within our stores when we get within a certain, as long as I'm putting it in the freezer by the date. And then we have amazing partners in, Mid-Ohio Food Collective, Toledo, Northwest Ohio Food Bank. List all the food banks in Ohio that we work with. And they're able to then take that product and it gets to the right people who are able to use it. But we are fresh for everyone, and our process is very seamless. And again, it goes back to the education. We have to educate our associates on the plan and the guidelines, so that we can remain fresh for everyone. When folks are coming in, they want fresh product in the store, but then not all of that product is not bad. So we need to take it to the next life and feed our hungry friends and neighbors. That's
great. We're starting at slow on time, but I think I have one more question for Ryan. I think one for Lauren before we wrap up. So, Ryan, this question came in. What do you think about external, outside your organization, sustainability groups or organizations, local, regional, measuring or tracking your progress, or in your case, Columbia Gas?
Yeah, again, kind of ties back to the last question I spoke on a little bit with some of the benchmarking. Again, we're a regulated utility, so the commission follows what we do very closely. So that's kind of where a lot of our reporting goes, is the type of relationship we have with the PUC. But again, kind of back to an example there is kind of back to that benchmarking of how we do that. So I know we only got 2 minutes left, so quick answer, but I'll jump over to Lauren's question.
Yeah, and real quickly to everybody, like one of the other handouts is there's a PDF of all the contacts and resources for all our panelists, and you'll see the 3 from today, their information is on that PDF you download. And we're going to collect your questions and make sure if they need to reach out to you individually. I'm going to do one more before I close up. Lauren, this is a good one I came across. You talked about like identifying sustainable programs, about sharps containers and food waste. Have you started to look at other medical waste like patient beds or medical devices, or is that,
Love this question. And someone obviously knows their healthcare space. So for medical devices, we've been working with Stryker Sustainable Solutions for 11 years now. And so that's a company that helps us collect certain medical devices in our operating rooms and in our patient rooms that then either get reprocessed, so they're FDA approved to be actually like pulled apart, sterilized, put back together, they're quality checked, and then they can be used again. Or if they're past their useful life, so each device has a certain amount of turns that they can be reprocessed for, then they're kind of pulled apart and recycled depending on the product. So it's a great way to divert waste. It's another example of a win-win because it allows us to purchase things back at a much more reduced price, right? If they're reprocessing a medical device, it can be 50 to 80% of the cost of a brand new device. And then the patient bed question is also timely. I think many of you know we're in the process of building a new hospital tower, and that will open in 2026. So ahead of that opening, we're actually looking at what is our next relationship for patient beds? What's that look like? And I mean no offense if I have someone in the patient bed manufacturing space, love to hear from you and tell me how I'm wrong. But the research I've done so far, I've been a little disappointed in terms of what are some sustainability features, when we think about modularity and repair, how do we keep those beds in service? How do we recycle them when they're done? Mattress recycling is another hot topic. So if someone on this call has great information for me, I would love to hear it because I'm like thick in the weeds with how do we make the patient bed experience much more sustainable.
Well, thank you. I think you just threw down a design challenge for if anybody's on there, but we'll see. And you guys have been great. And it's 3:00, and we could probably keep going, which is it's a great panel. But I want to thank all 3 of you for your time this afternoon and all the hard work you put in prepping for this. And, prepping with your organizations. I speak for us all when I say that how much we appreciate you sharing your experience related to measuring your sustainability progress and the importance of having data to tell your story, which I kind of sums up all up. Once the audience leaves or once we log off, you will receive a survey, and we value your feedback and would greatly appreciate if you let us know how we're doing and to let us know if there's anything we can do to further assist you. A certificate of attendance will also be emailed you when the session is over. Tomorrow, like I say, we're already through day 2 of our sustainability conference. We have one day left, so we'll wrap it up with 3 sessions. We first joined us in the morning with our director, Lori Stevenson, and we're going to, as part of an award ceremony, we're going to recognize Ohio businesses, nonprofits, and communities and other organizations that are going above and beyond compliance while demonstrating environmental excellence. And at 11, we're going to hear from Upper Arlington, the Food Bank at Dayton, and the Brownsville Growers Market to talk about how they're moving forward with sustainable initiatives related to food waste diversion, food injustice, and insecurity in community gardens. And lastly, and you'll get me again, yours truly, to wrap things up as a moderator, at 2 p.m., we'll learn how GreenSpot and Clean Fuels Ohio recognize and work with a variety of organizations to celebrate sustainability. Again, to register for these free sessions, you can click on our e-binder, which is one of your attachments, and go to the final day or the final agenda day for day 3, and you can still register all 3 of them right now. And with that, I want to thank you for attending, and we'll end this afternoon's panel session. We hope to see everyone tomorrow at 9 a.m. And thanks again for joining us, and have a great day.